Chapter 3 Skull Island. Mmm, the sun is bright today, and I am still sleepy. A massive yawn shook the leaves of trees all around. I wonder if the nice tiny one will be here today. Kong stood and meandered down the hill to the water, taking a moment to scratch an itch at the juncture of his glute and thigh. A grand waterfall dwarfing him in size served to help him bath as he stretched his shoulders and rolled his neck beneath the flowing waters. Once satisfied with the gleam in his fur, Kong made his way to a large clearing before taking a whiff of the air. They are watching. A glance over his shoulder caught a flicker of movement in the bushes down below the tree canopy. Being so puny helps you hide from my eyes, but you cannot hide from my nose or ears. Kong lifted his heel and slammed it into the ground, causing a tremor to erupt and spread throughout the area. A few gasps and the sound of something heavy hitting the ground caught his attention, and he gave a grunt of satisfaction and continued on. Looking up at the sun, Kong shielded his eyes before letting his arm fall. Squinting against the light, he looked right, then left. He gave the air a heavy sniff and his mouth puckered as his nose scrunched. Grabbing a tree at its base and ripping it free from off the ground, he gripped the trunk and raked his hand down the shaft to tear the branches and leaves away. The tree's trunk slimmed to a point at the end, and he tossed it up and down into his hand a few times to feel the weight. The sun is bright, but not warm. Kong took several giant steps toward the sun, but paused upon a glance down at the sight of movement. A tiny red jacket against the greenery pulled his eyes, and he stopped to kneel down and get a closer look at what was unfolding. Ah, nice tiny one, and me. The little Kong effigy in her hands was lowered, revealing a smile on her face. Kong half returned the smile and stood up straight. Good to see you both, but I am in no mood to play today. Kong pulled back and let fly with the tree, which tore through the air and slammed into the heavens, revealing dozens of panels of video panels, all working together to create the illusions of a bright, warm sky above Skull Island. Electricity crackled and sizzled as the surrounding panels flickered and glitched in response. Kong huffed a breath and released an angry roar which shook the ground and forced Gia to cover her ears, dropping her Kong effigy in the process. Inside the observation room, Dr. Elaine Andrews, Dr. Serizawa, Dr. Elaine Chen, Dr. Graham, and Joe Brody in his wheelchair all braced themselves against the tremor caused by Kong's attack. Incredible, Joe whispered. Dr. Andrews, this containment facility will not hold Kong for much longer, Serizawa warned. I know, Serizawa, but we don't have a choice. It's the only way to keep him safe, she replied. Safe from what? Dr. Chen asked. From your mentor's pet project, Andrews replied sharply. Dr. Chen's lips tightened, but she was restrained from speaking by a single hand gesture from Serizawa. Godzilla has left Kong's kind in peace since before Kong was born. Why do you think Godzilla would consider him a threat now? Dr. Graham asked. Because Kong's the only titan on Earth that Godzilla hasn't attacked in the last 6 to 8 months, Andrew replied. Serizawa took a deep breath as Andrews pointed a finger at him. I am not letting Kong become his next victim. Godzilla is establishing dominance, Elaine, he pleaded. And what happens when the two alpha converge in the world, Doctor? She asked. One of them must bow, he replied. Or, she continued, Serizawa huffed through his nose. or die, she finished after him. At that moment, Gia arrived, holding her Kong effigy and tugged at Andrew's jacket. Kneeling down and greeting Gia happily, she told the girl via signs that she was in an important meeting and would talk later. It took a moment to get Gia to comply, but once she had and was on her way, Andrews turned back to the group. Look, Sarasawa, everyone. 5 years ago, Godzilla defeated Monster Zero and asserted his dominance. The roar heard around the world, as it was called in the media. Remember? All of the Titan bowed regardless of where in the world they were. Godzilla stood alone and was treated as the alpha. But now, he's out there picking fights and making them all bow a second time by force. Why? A few of the other doctors and scientists exchanged glances, but none of them could return an answer. Exactly. Godzilla's not just acting like an alpha, he's acting like a bully. And Kong isn't one to be bullied or pushed around. He'd never submit if Godzilla came up for him. And given what we all know Godzilla can do, if that were to happen, it would be a death sentence for Kong, and I'm not going to let that happen. If I may ask, Dr. Andrews, Joe asked. I'm sorry, who are you again? She asked. Joe Brody, ma'am. I was a nuclear engineer working in Janjira during the 1999 power plant meltdown at the hands of the male Muto. Ah, that's right. Apologies, Mr. Brody. It's fine. Anyway, I've been studying the Titans ever since the 2014 incident in San Francisco, and if we consider Godzilla's behavior to be that of an alpha asserting his dominance, it's not really as surprising as you make it out to be. How's that, Mr. Brody? Because there are many in the animal kingdom who, when they're the alpha of a pride, pack, herd, family group, whatever, will occasionally reassert their dominance whenever they sense some unease or tension in the group. Sometimes it's as simple as restoring order and preemptively stopping infighting. And I think there was an example of that not too long ago between the Titans Behemoth and Amulok. The two were fighting in Behemoth's known territory, and Godzilla had to step in and make them both back down and go their separate ways. Right? Andrews heaved a long sigh. Look, I know it's not exactly a comfort knowing that Godzilla's making those rounds like this, but when you consider it from his own perspective, then... I'm sorry, his own perspective, Mr. Brody? Yes, his perspective as an alpha in a herd or a pack or whatever you want to call all of the Titans. As much as I appreciate what you're trying to do by comparing Godzilla's behavior to something natural and not inherently violent, I have to remind you that we're all still only just beginning to unravel the mystery of what the Titans are, why they do what they do, and who each one of them truly is an individual. And while they may look like animals and have some known animalistic behaviors, they're not animals, they're monsters. Creatures too big and powerful for their own good. And if one of them gets it in their head, that's it. It's time to show everyone who's boss. What's to stop them from doing the same to humanity once they've done with the other Titans? Joe cleared his throat, and Jerizella stepped up. That is where you're wrong, Eileen. The Titans are still animals. They were born on this world just like any others, and the kinds have lived and died on this world like any other for longer than any of us can imagine. Their size is unique to a time long before even the dinosaurs, but they are still animals. Agree to disagree, Sarasawa. What do you really have against the Titans? Dr. Chan asked in a harsh tone. It's not that I have anything against them, Dr. Chan. It's that I don't trust our lack of knowledge about them. And unlike most of you, it seems, I prefer not leaving anything to chance or simply hoping for a positive outcome. Godzilla's acting out and fighting the others to assert himself, and when Kong doesn't bow, there can be one alpha standing when it's over, and that's not going to end well for Kong. Dr. Chan was clearly not convinced but relented and took a step back. Are we done? Dr. Andrews asked. Nobody spoke up. I'm sorry, you had to see Kong acting out like that. We'll figure out what to do about him soon. For now, though, he has to stay here where it is safe. Why do you think it's safe? Joe asked. Because, Mr. Brody, we've managed to use the findings of Mark Russell's data from the Orca device to produce a copy of Kong's vocalizations and broadcast a signal that exactly out of phase with it. When Kong's vocalization and frequencies come into contact with it, they cancel out. As long as he's inside the dome, Godzilla will never know he's there. You think that Godzilla's senses are so easily deceived? Serizawa asked in a calm, low voice. I believe what that data tells me, and I have seen with my own eyes. Godzilla responds most readily to the other Titan's audio frequency. If we cancel Kong's frequency out, it's basically putting Kong's blinders on Godzilla. Serizawa said nothing, but his calm, quiet stare told all. Now, if we're quite finished, I've somewhere to be. Dr. Andrew took her leave, and almost as soon as the door was shut, Dr. Chan shook her head. Bitch, she muttered. Calm yourself, Elaine, Serizawa scolded. She gave a subtle bow of her head. Mr. Brody, what do you think? Serizawa asked. I think she really cares about Kong and will do anything to keep him safe, Joe replied. Serizawa nodded. I suppose she is not so different from me and my interest in Gojira. Joe nodded with a slight chuckle. Yeah, got that right. How is your son? Dr. Graham asked. Ford? Oh, he's doing well. He took Eileen and Sam and moved to another section of San Francisco, but I think he said he's due for a deployment again soon. Hasn't said where yet. Ah, well, please give him our best, Dr. Graham said with a smile. Definitely. Thanks, Vivian. Serizawa smiled with a nod. Somewhere in Gia's room, Andrews walked in and smiled apologetically. You were gone for a long time, Gia sighed. Sorry, my colleagues and I get really caught up in our conversations sometimes. Andrews signed back. You seem sad. Me? No. Why do you think that? The way you looked at me when you came in. Did I look strange? She sighed while making a silly face. Gia smiled. Yes, very strange. Well, I guess I have been a bit stressed about Kong attacking the dome. He's sad too. Why do you think that? After he roared at the roof, he walked away with his head down. Doesn't that mean he's sad? I don't know. Maybe he is a little sad, but being here is safe for him. So for now, we need to do our best to make him comfortable and keep him healthy. I see. Want some dinner? Gia nodded. Okay. What would you like? Pizza. Andrews laughed and gave Gia a look before hugging her and kissing her forehead. How about something healthier? I'll make your favorite. Gia clapped her hands and Andrew's mouth hung open for a second before giving Gia another look. Did you say pizza because I knew I'd offer your favorite meal? Gia shrugged and shook her head, and to this, Andrews couldn't help but laugh again. You little sneak. Taking Gia's hand, she led her out of the room and through the halls towards the dining room. Out in the wilderness, Kong lay down against the base of a mountain and looked up at the fake sun overhead. The sun is bright, the skies are open, the clouds float by, the trees are swaying. Everything looked as it should be. But the birds, they never land. The winds comes and go in cycles too perfect to be natural. There are no more storms. There is no more smell of the sea. This place, this prison. Kong laid down all the way and put his head in his hand. I hate it. Chapter 4 Reconnaissance. Welcome, all, one and all, to Apex. Now, if you just kindly follow me, we'll begin the tour of our wonderful Panascola facility, said a tour guide to her group. It's a lot bigger than it looks from the outside, whispered one tour member. No kidding, look at all this tech, exclaimed another. Now, if you look here on the left, you'll see most of our most fuel and cost-efficient conveyor belt system, which automates both the production and distribution of components throughout the facility. These AI-controlled arms are large, but have precise precision control programmed in, which keeps them performing the same routine movements within fractions of a millimeter to ensure consistency and reliability. Damn, that's impressive, whispered another tour member. One tour member in particular nodded, but didn't seem overly impressed as his green-blue eyes scanned the arms and the conveyor belt itself. Over here, you'll see the latest prototype of our propulsion system. Our engineering teams have been hard at work on over the past 10 years, utilizing a combination of heat and focused air pressure. It utilized 100% naturally occurring elements in the air to generate its lift. Behind a large, bulletproof glass wall in an isolated room was a single engine hovering in the air via the method described. A subtle shimmer of heat beneath it, like that above asphalt, distorted the air, and subtle hints of dust flying out to all sides proved the air concepts as well. Excuse me, is this going to be in cars soon? Another tour member asked. Absolutely. In a few short years, cars and airplanes alike will no longer have to rely on gasoline or for fuel, and will utilize this system as a means of propelling all of us through the air with an extreme levels of control and reliability. The blue-green-eyed man raised his hand. Yes, sir? Has Apex considered military application for any of its major innovations? No, sir. Apex is 100% focused on consumer products and innovations for the future of the common man. He nodded. Any questions? People looked around but did not speak. All right, please follow me. We'll continue the tour. The blue-green-eyed man adjusted his jacket and failed to notice when his name tag fell to the floor. It was picked up by a kindly stranger in the tour who tugged at his jacket elbow. Pardon, Ford, you dropped this. Ford glanced this way and then to the name tag. Oh, thanks, man. Of course. Come on. We don't want to be we don't get left behind. Ford chuckled and made sure his name tag was fastened tightly before taking another quick glance around. Out of the corner of his eyes, he caught sight of some heavily armed man standing near a door down the end of a long hallway they passed, which made him raise an eyebrow. Firepower like that often wasn't required in a tech place like this, not unless they had heavier secrets hiding somewhere that they didn't want the public knowing about. For now, however, he caught up with the rest of the tour as they entered a new hallway showcasing all the awards Apex had won for its innovative and future-focused efforts. Meanwhile, I feel you. Under a black sky devoid of any lights from the moon, the water around Pensacola, Florida, sat quiet and calm. A few friends on a boat enjoyed drinks as they watched the sea and joked and flirted back and forth with the promises of a fun evening once they made it back to shore. Oh, come on. What do you mean she's not into you? She's not, man, trust me. I've been watching the two of you look at each other, bro. She's into you. She's just shy, so trust me. I'm the only one who's known her for 6 years. So just man up and ask her for a drink when we get back. You... Hey guys, what's that? Looking out towards the ocean, the group spied what looked like flickering blue light on the horizon. What is that? Asked one of the girls. No idea, replied another of the boys. Another flickers, brighter this time. Some kind of underwater light showing shows they're working on, maybe? Phew, what kind of show would do that out here? I don't know, just a thought. No need to be a dick about it. Another flicker, even brighter. Is it getting closer? You do not belong. The lights flared, and this time they did not fade. The water began churning in a line directly at the boat. Oh shit! Hurry! Get us out of here! Another was already firing up the engines and throwing the boat into full speed as they raced towards the shore as a giant flashing blue light and angry ocean chasing them faster than that the boat could move. Get out of the way, man! Will you shut up already? The boat banged hard to the left as the churning ocean gave way to three massive pairs of maple leaf-shaped spines slicing through the water and rising higher and higher. Holy shit! Up, up at the front of the spine were two glowing blue dots, which, from a frontal view on the part of those on shore, could not be mistaken for anything other than what they were. A massive head rose out of the water and roared loudly before its jaw snapped shut against the waves, with those glowing blue eyes flashing brightly and illuminating the way ahead. Run! Screamed dozens of people at once. Alarms began blaring throughout the city, but more importantly, they began blaring within the Epic's facility as an evacuation order was given. The tourists around Ford panicked and followed the tour guide to the nearest exit, but Ford glanced back towards the hallway and found the armed guards were gone. Taking his chance when everyone seemed to have run off around the corners, he darted for the doors they were guarding and found it to be locked. Leaning back against the wall opposite the door, he threw himself forward and kicked the door, causing it to cave in and breaking the lock. Pushing through and dashing through the hallway, he found himself face to face with those two same guards. Hey, you're not supposed to be down here. Hey, fellas, Ford said nervously. Where are you? Godzilla stood up out of the water and unleashed a powerful roar, which made the entire ocean around him tremble and shook the ground. I sense your presence. These puny creatures seek to hide you from me, but I will find you. He stomped forward through the waters before feeling the sting of half a dozen missiles striking his chest, courtesy of military aircraft deployed against him. You would stand against me? You have tried this before. One plane flew just a tad too close and was unceremoniously swatted out of the sky by Godzilla's massive claw. The intruder does not belong. He tried to destroy you. He tried to destroy me. He tried to dominate the world we both call home. Why do you defend him? More planes and more missiles. You test my patience. I will find him even if you defend him. Godzilla's tail slammed into the water, and the blue light he was so known for began rising up from the spines on the tip of his tail to his head and eyes. His jaws opened, and a massive stream of pure radiation seared the air and eliminated the existence of everything in its path. This included several buildings, all of the planes sicked against him, and dozens of blocks worth of streets and housing. Inside the facility, Ford just narrowly missed the back wall behind the guards exploding, which threw him back along the corridor. Almost ironically, it sent him clear of the debris which crushed the others to death, giving him safe passage forward. Coughing to clear his lungs and shaking his head of the clear of the ringing in his ears, he staggered ahead and saw a strange orb with a single glowing red light in the middle. The hell is that? He whispered to himself. Godzilla's roar snapped him out of his stupor, and he dashed back through the hallways to find a way out of the death trap which had become the Apex facility. He has vanished. Again. I will sense him again, and I will find him. Godzilla glanced around at the town of Pensacola and snarled. You tried to hide him from me, the enemy of all that live on this world. You would shield him from my wrath and vengeance. Godzilla's spine and eyes lit once more and his jaw slowly opened. You will pay for your actions this night, puny creatures. Godzilla let fly with his atomic breath into the heart of Pensacola, incinerating dozens upon dozens of blocks of housing, commercial buildings, and the rest of what was once the Apex facility. With half of Pensacola now turned to a sea of flames, Godzilla huffed a breath and returned to the sea. Ford, meanwhile, had barely made it out before Godzilla's wrath flattened the world around him. But looking back at Godzilla's disappearing spine in the ocean and the devastation he had just witnessed, Ford heaved a heavy sigh. That was rough, he muttered to himself as he took out his cell phone. The dog's not gonna like this. Ford tapped on the contact reading server and started a call.